A lot of people have been asking me what is the best way to clear Naxx? When do we unboon? How do what's the best way to prog? So over the last couple of years, I have helped several different guilds and groups progress through Naxx. Guilds that were struggling with just a couple bosses, and I joined them and you know taught them the bosses and had to pick. Okay, we can kill this many bosses. We have 30 minutes left of raid. Are we going to go progress on like this boss or this boss? What's the best order? Now, there's a couple different ways to consider what is the best clear order, right? There's what's the best clear order for a speed run. That's irrelevant to progression. What's the best clear order for a progression raid, our first Naxx raid, but it's a group of people who all have 100 Naxx clears under their belt. That's a very different order than people who are like, we definitely cannot kill all of the bosses. What are the easiest ones to kill? Or where do we unboon and where do we not unboon? Because what the good guilds are going to do is they're probably just going to start Spider, then they'll go Plague, then they'll go Construct, then Military. Some might do Construct, then Plague, and then Military. What we need to consider where we unboon and where we start are two things. One, raid cooldowns. Warriors dominate the raids, and recklessness is something you plan a raid around. When it comes to Naxx, because Naxx is not a linear raid, you can choose where to pop rec in a Blackwing layer or in a AQ40. That's a linear raid. Yeah, there's some optional bosses in AQ40, but it's basically the bosses have an order to them. Naxx, yes, bosses have a bit of an order to them, but you can start with any wing, right? So there's 1, 2, 3, 4 different bosses that are the first boss. And so there's if you want to run around a lot, you could do this you could do any order of bosses. So anyways, where do we want to pop rec? Well, you want to pop rec early to get it on cooldown. So let's just talk about the Plague Wing. Do you want to pop Recklessness at all in the Plague Wing? Not the Plague Bringer. He's an easy boss. There's no need to pop rec there. Hygen Unclean. You probably don't need to pop rec on Hygen. With world buffs, you probably even skip the dance phase, but hopefully you guys know how to dance. And Loatheb, that boss gives you crits, so rec there is kind of useless. So I've never heard of anyone really popping rec in Plague Wing. It's very rare. Military Wing, you're definitely not going to pop rec on Resuvius. He's just an easy fight. You don't need that. You can do without world buffs. Gothic, it's mostly ads, so you're not going to pop rec on the ads. You can pop rec on 4 Horsemen, but that's the last boss of the wing, and there's a lot of trash in there. And so these 2 wings, you don't want to start with those wings, because by the time you get to a boss that you would maybe want to pop rec, you've spent a lot of time in the raid. Anubricon is a common boss to pop rec because you can skip his kiting phase and you take out the ads. It's only a couple pulls and you're at this boss. So this is a great boss to start with Recklessness on, and this is why most groups start with Anubricon. Now you could pop rec on Patchwork, but honestly you really don't need to pop rec on Patchwork. Usually a tank popping shield wall is all that you need to do on Patchwork, and Deathwish and world buffs will do the rest of it. So that's why I would say the best wing to start on is Arachnid or Spider Wing, and that's where you would pop Recklessness. Now there's something that we call a Naxx Light. That's like the first 6 super easy bosses, right? Because when we consider booning and unbooning, where are we going to boon? Where are we going to unboon? We want to talk about what bosses can we kill without even having buffs. Well, first of all, yes, of course, we can kill every single boss without world buffs because that's how the game's designed. But there's a difference between killing a couple bosses week 1, a couple more week 2, and just keep on farming the raid. And after 2 months, now you've accumulated enough gear and you can kill the last boss without world buffs. That's a very different story than having 4 months of Naxx on fresh. And if you can kill a lot of bosses, maybe even all the bosses in the first week, that's better than painfully progressing, right? So anyways, the first 6 easy bosses are Olive Spider, Anub, Fairlina, Maxina, Nothhagen, and Resuvius. Those bosses are easy, and hopefully most groups could be able to do an Naxx Light. Those 6 bosses, they drop the best loot. You can get Iblis, you can get Mentor, you can get Carnage, you could get Hatchet, you could get Kiss the Spider, Riskard's Vengeance, Wraithblade, Widow's Remorse, Widow's Revenge. There's a lot of great items on those first 6 bosses. So definitely that's what you'd want to focus on. When we eventually get to be able to kill Patchwork, right? Let's say you're able to do your Naxx Light. You can do those 6 bosses. That's when you start to think about, okay, what other bosses could we do? Loatheb is not particularly difficult, although some groups do struggle with him. Gothic is another boss you could go towards, but defeating Gothic is only going to take you to 4 Horsemen, and now you're definitely not going to progress that. That's like the last boss you're going to kill. So it doesn't make sense after you've done your Naxx Light, your first 6 easy bosses, to go for Gothic. And Loatheb, honestly, his loot's not that great. Most of the time, what you're going to do after you're able to do the first 6 easy bosses is go for Patchwork. I want to make soon an entire Patchwork video to really make it so people can be successful on this boss, because he can be a wall. But once you defeat him, Grobolus and Gluth are very easy, and Thaddeus is not that bad, right? Because then you can go from killing 6 bosses and you do all of this, and now you're at 10 bosses, kill Loatheb, now you're at 11, and then 12, 13. So that's the order. You do your Naxx Light, you do Patchwork and everything else, Loatheb, Gothic, 4 Horsemen, that's your kill order, your progression order. Now, in terms of where to boon and unboon, like I said, you can kill every single boss without world buffs. But on your first week, what can you kill with and without buffs? That's what we really want to discuss here. You can kill Inubricon without world buffs. You can kill Fairlina without world buffs. World buffs will trivialize Maxina. More health for the tank to survive the stun. And extra DPS so that you just have a single stun phase rather than having 2 stun phases. So I would say no world buffs needed on Inubricon or Fairlina, but recommended on Maxina. Noth the Plaguebringer, you don't need world buffs, although it'll make it faster. And Hagen, again, you don't need it, but it'll help you skip the dance phase. Or if you do get a dance phase, you have more health to survive a misstep. Loatheb, the damage and health helps big time against the Enraged Timer and makes it less consume heavy. Resuvius, no need at all. In fact, I would recommend you not do it with world buffs, because this fight can be tricky with the priests having a mind control drop. Gothic, world buffs are often very helpful. People struggle with this fight, actually. 4 Horsemen, while it can be done without world buffs, you're probably going to want world buffs. Patchwork, definitely. You don't need it for Grobolus, but if you have it for Patchwork, you'll be using it on Grobolus. Gluth, it helps to Zerg him down, but you could do it without world buffs. But again, if you have it for Patchwork, you'll have it for Gluth, and of course for Thaddeus as well. So here's what I will be doing in my guild for my kill order and my unboon order. We're going to do some trash pre-clearing. The reason is there's always the danger that someone loses world buffs on trash, And we want to conserve our world buffs so that we have as many world buffs as we can and as much duration of them as we can when we get to the bosses that we need world buffs for. So what we're going to do is we'll start with Construct Quarter. We'll do the first pack, maybe a couple of the patrols. Then we're going to leave Construct Quarter. And then we're going to go for Plague Quarter. And we're going to kill the beginning couple packs. And then we'll get to the first boss and we'll say bye-bye and we'll leave that quarter. And then we'll go to Spiderwing and we'll clear the Spiderwing trash up to Anubricon. And then we will kill Anubricon and we will pop Recklessness on Anubricon. And then what we will do is we will do Fairlena and still not pop our world buffs. We'll do Mexina, or I should say we'll get to Mexina. And at Mexina, that is where my guild is going to pop our world buffs. Because extra health and damage is just going to trivialize the fight. And we're going to take Mexina to like 35%. We'll stop damage. I'll pop all my cooldown, shield wall, last stand, all that good stuff. And I will survive the stun phase. And then we'll finish Mexina off. Once Mexina is down, we're going to go for the Construct Quarter. We'll clear the remaining trash for getting to Patchwork. And we will we'll do Patchwork. Then the other tank will pop their shield wall on the Enrage. I don't think we'll need to pop Wreck on Patchwork, but it will be back up if we feel like, okay, healers are out of mana, let's Wreck Patchwork. Most likely we could avoid it. Then we'll do Grobulus, and if things get ugly, if our Hunter Kiter dies, I'll be like, pop Wreck. We'll still have Recklessness in our back pocket if our Druid Kiter dies. And we need our mages to go like Suicide or something in Frost Nova and do crazy stuff and send a warrior to Lip Shout and just like zerg this boss down. That's on Gluth. Grobulus is easy. That's on Gluth. And then Thaddeus, that's where we would pop probably our second Recklessness. Then we'll go for Noth, Huygen, and Loatheb. The only bosses... Oh, by the way, and then once Loatheb is dead, we will boon our buffs. And because we did that trash pre-clear, then we should hopefully have at least like 10 minutes on our world buffs, of our Rend and Songflower. And then what we will do is probably do a dry run or two on Four Horsemen to make sure people know what they're doing. Then we'll unboon. Of course, we have to kill Gothic. We might have to unboon on him. Resuvius don't need any buffs, but hopefully we can do Gothic without the buffs, but we might need to unboon. So I'm trying to have as much time on our world buffs as possible. If we have to unboon and kill Gothic and then reboon and have just like 5 minutes on our Ren and Songflower to have it on Four Horsemen, so be it. But that's going to be our kill order. So basically, once we unboon at Mexina, we have like 55 minutes to do this quarter. This is easy. There's no trash here because we'll already have it pre-cleared. So it's like Noth, that's like 3 minutes. Huygen, that's like 3 minutes. Loatheb, that's like 3 minutes, right? You should be able to do this quarter in 10 minutes. And then we have to do this quarter here in 40 minutes, which is for here. There's no trash, and it's just all the trash leading up to Patchwork. So we should be able to have like 20 minutes on our boons for Gothic if needed, and then Four Horsemen. So that's my plan of where to boon, to unboon, to wreck, and our progression order. Hope that helps. If you enjoyed the video, drop me a sub and a comment. Catch me live on my Twitch channel, Dwarf Lord TV, to connect with me or say hi to me in game on any of my characters. Dwarf Lord out.
And they say that the Dwarf Lord could save us. I'm not gonna cave here and wait. I'll hold on to the beard of the Dwarf Lord. Watch as we heroic leap away.